Our guest this morning is Nicholus Njogu. He is the country director at Rafiki Mwema Therapeutic Center. He's here because in our Justice Thursday conversation today, we want to look at children, and particularly children who've been sexually abused. This is happening in this country. We keep hearing it once, twice, and we assume, okay, so there are just a few cases here and there. But Nicholus is here to tell us, no, it's not a few cases, there are many. Nicholus, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for hosting me. Hi, City.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
How are you today?
Fine, fine.
That's good.
Yeah.
And we welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much.
City.
Yes.
Give him the day's proverb.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week ending tomorrow, that is, are from the Republic of Malawi. Okay? Next week, we'll be in the Republic of Liberia.
Okay. All right.
The elders are the rivers where fire is extinguished.
The elders are the rivers where fires are extinguished.
Yes.
Nicholus, what's your interpretation of this proverb?
Yeah, the elders being the rivers where fires are extinguished. My interpretation means like the elders are like the peacemakers. If there are fires, then the elders will come, speak up and sort it out peacefully, and we get peace. That's my literal interpretation. Probably in their culture in Malawi, as City has said, they have a different meaning.
Yes. But when there's a reference of elders in our continent, I think we share a commonality of understanding. It's a respect that is given to elders, and it's the understanding that having seen many moons and many sunrises, there are things they will know that many others who haven't had that same experience would not know. Yes.
So, Brother Nicholus.
Yes, Eric.
What is Rafiki Mwema Therapeutic Center?
Yeah, Rafiki Mwema Therapeutic Center is a children rescue center focusing on rescue and therapeutic support of children who are victims of sexual abuse and profound neglect. We are based in Nakuru, work through in Nakuru County, but support children from all over the country. It started in 2011 from a rental unit to help young girls who are victims of defilement and other forms of sexual abuse. Then in over a week, there were 22 children already hosted at the facility. And over time, we've grown up to now where we are home to about 70 children and support of 100 more who have already passed through the center, got therapeutic support, safe reintegration, and it's more of a midway home. They come, they are supported therapeutically, they are supported through their court cases, a safe home or family reintegration is identified, and they leave that space others occupy, hoping that one day we will not have to have more occupying, but we will have prevented sexual abuse from happening.
When you say children and sexual abuse, how young are we talking? Yeah,
it's unfortunate because the youngest we have hosted and who we are hosting to date is 2 years of age. Yeah, we have held as little as 2 years of age.
How did this child come to your center?
Normally, children are rescued in different forms, but they all pass through the county and the sub-county children offices and the court system, who look at the situation the child is in, and they feel that the child needs some safe refuge, it's from there that they are recommended to us, and we go take rescue, stay with them, offer them all the love, the safety, and the therapeutic support in terms of trauma support until they are able to stand back on their feet and regain their dignity.
I'm again interested in that process.
Yeah.
So somebody notices that there's abuse happening in a homestead, and they come and alert you. So how do they notice? Is it a family member who comes to alert you about this? Is it a neighbor? How do you get to know that there's a child who has been sexually abused?
It varies, and this is now from the community perspective, because it will either start with possibly a neighbor identify that a child is being has been sexually abused. It could be a parent identifying that their girl has been sexually abused. In some cases, it's the teachers in school who notice possibly maybe a young girl is walking differently, or possibly they have a false smell coming from them, or they've just changed and retreated to themselves. And in the process, because there's some steps of awareness that are happening in the community, they'll take initiative and report that. However, we believe only a few cases end up being reported. Many end up being unreported because our data indicates that over 90% of children are abused by people well known to them, and in most cases, relatives.
Okay. So, if in the case that, let's work with a teacher in a school environment. So, teachers notice there's something about this child, young or boy or girl, and then they come to you. So, what do you do?
Yeah, mostly the situation is they'll possibly inform our outreach staff, because we have a team that does outreach, community awareness, and all those activities, and they will inform them that there's a child who they suspect has possibly has undergone defilement or any other issue, and the first direction is always to the hospital. And then from there, if it's identified there's a defilement, they'll be referred to the police station, to the gender office and the children's office. And from there, some children are too scared to even speak about it, so it will take some time. But in most cases, they speak up, and the court process will begin on one end, as the child's trauma management process also begins on the other end as soon as they are rescued.
So is it the child officer or the police that get in touch with you? I want to find out how you're operating in terms of the legal environment, right? So there is a case of sexual abuse that's happened on a child, okay, legally. How does Rafiki Mwema then come in? Yeah,
legally it's from the children's office.
Okay.
That's the legal process, because the children's office, mostly in the sub-county levels, are the ones who are responsible for handling children protection matters in the county sections. And so we work with them. They are the ones who place children in our custody. And that happens through the court process, because the court has to commit the child to charitable children institution.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all the 70 children who are currently under your care, the government knows about them.
Yeah.
The courts know about them.
Yeah.
The children's department knows about this.
Yeah.
The local police stations know about this.
Yeah. From where they were rescued, some are just from nearby, others are from far away areas, but all the children are known by the courts. They're actually government children to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are we saying that you cannot have a situation where you have walk-ins, someone knows of the center, knows what the center does, and brings to your doorsteps a child who has undergone the trauma of molestation?
No. It's not legally even. It's possible, someone can walk in, because
what happens?
If they were to walk in,
if somebody came in, and said, "There's this child, this is the problem," what would you do?
The first thing is to report to the police, have the child taken to hospital for examinations, and then from there, the children officer is notified also immediately. So they are the ones now to advise whether there's a case of molestation, have this child held in your institution, or if they are above 12, because mostly we focus on less than 12 years of age, there are referral patterns of where any other safer places where they can be rescued to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a child then comes to your facility.
Yeah.
Then what do you do with the child?
The first thing, once they come there, of course, the personalities are different. There are those who will come and immediately they are alive, they are jumping up and down. Some will come very timid and they'll just corner themselves. They won't speak. We have had instances where we have some children who will come, and even from the hospital and the police station and the children's office where they are referred to, they'll think that these children are either have a special mentally challenged or something of the sort because they won't speak. But once they come, we begin by first showing them all the love. They get all the support, all the comfort that they need. They stay with a Thespian for about 14 days, where they spend the day with the other children there of their age, but sleep separately with a carer who they begin to get the bond, and who later becomes their key worker, who will technically be like a confidant to them. Over time, they will either open up. They could open up within the first few weeks. Some will stay up to an year or even more before they speak up. But eventually, they will speak up, say what happened to them. Some will speak out loudly to everyone. Some will only speak out to the person who they have confided with. And a journey begins to ensure that by the time they leave the gates there, they are been able to recover from the traumas of their tormentors.
Good point you've raised there. What is it that needs to have happened before a child can be released from your care?
Several things. Number one, it's recovery from trauma. We work this through our carers have been trained to use the PACE model. It's a therapeutic model of playfulness, acceptance, curiosity, and empathetic model, just to especially help the younger children. Then the next thing is we have our team. We have a dedicated team of outreach staff who undertake family tracing and visit the families, so that as the child is undergoing therapeutic, they also journey with the parent on the other end to establish a safe, family setup for them. In occasion, they will not go back to where they were abused from, because in some cases it's their homes, it's their dad who have sexually abused them, and so possibly we'll work with the family and the children's office to establish another safe place for them to exit to. It may take short time, medium term, or some are with us for long term. Others have their families neglected them, and so we have to stay with them until one day we get a safe exit for them.
What is the capacity that you have in terms of what the number of children you can actually have in your institution at any given time?
We can hold up to a maximum of 100 maximum.
Up to 100?
Yeah, and much of it, we have a bigger portion because the rescue center is hosted in a 14-acre piece of land, but it costs money. It's expensive to host the child. You remember, they'll need food, they'll need clothing, they'll need security. There are staff who are working on them. There's a lot of holds of cost that are going on. There are medical care. We have some children who come with different medical comorbidities, some requiring quite expensive care. But, we thank our generals and our well supporters who have really stood with us over the course of time, because we are not under any government body or under any main sponsor. So it's well wishers.
Do you have any partnership, say, with hospitals or with agencies NGOs that deal with children and whose focus is the welfare of the child? Do you have any such collaborations?
Not really, but we have a working relationship with almost every other children criminal justice system and their affiliates around there. For example, there are those who focus possibly on teenage mothers, so anytime a case of teenage mother is brought to us, we refer to them. But we don't have any main affiliation with an agency, because at times this is a really narrow niche of focus for us. And most organizations, you'll find they have either focusing on adult GBV, others on feeding and things of the sort.
Why I ask is because if your focus is on children who've been abused and the recovery of such children, yes, as you correctly put it, there are organizations that perhaps, as you say, deal with feeding. Surely, a partnership with such an organization would be useful. I was thinking of this organization called Child Fund. There are organizations within this country that deal with the children. Now, they may not necessarily deal with what your institution handles or manages, but since the idea is to support the child, a case can be made for such organizations to actually help or for you to partner with them, because after all, their interest, as it says, the welfare of the child.
Yeah, we talk with quite a number of them, and occasionally you'll find them, they have each such organizations have different areas of reach. For example, there are some that you'll find they are either focused on the coastal region, others are focused on the slums, others are focused in the arid and semi-arid areas. So it's really a gelling issue, not more of a partnership issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you look at the statistics from what, you said you've been in operation since 2011.
Yeah.
Of course, you've been looking at, the nature of cases that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
What would you say is the prevalence in terms of I don't say the causes. I mean, what leads to this abuse of children?
Well, it's varied, because at times, you at times think of what exactly led this man to defile his daughter and things of the sort. But again, you lack answers, and we've never lived in any day of their lives to know what was in their mind. But occasionally, broken families are a cause, and because you'll find we have quite a significant status where the mother left the child either with their grandmother's place and went to hustle out, or they left with the care of the neighbors, and the neighbors took advantage of the child and things of the sort. So broken families, then illicit blues. If you look at from our own statistics, there are quite a number of children who have been brought to us affiliated, and who's either the mothers and the parents are partakers of illicit blues, and at times they bring men to the house, and occasionally the men will sneak in when that lady probably is in the drinking dens and defile the child and things of the sort.
So it's alcoholism.
Yeah, alcoholism.
Not necessarily illicit blues.
Yeah, alcoholism.
So the parents are addicted to alcohol. So they basically just focus their day on alcohol. They leave the children unattended, and somebody comes to take advantage and abuse the child.
Yeah.
Do you have similar numbers of boys and girls, or is it a majority girls?
Majority is on the girls, because we really focus on girls, but we have our boys program is mostly rehabilitation programs from the street of boys who have faced profound neglect from the streets, and that's a different ecosystem, because things that happen on the streets to street children are really things that you can not just imagine. There is, unmet barbarism and, cruelty in the streets. So we, out of these, they need to help the boy and to support them therapeutically, and also going by the number of cases of children going to the streets that we were noting. We came up with a program called Rafiki Mtaani. It started off by as a feeding program where we would offer a meal once a week to the street children, and it was started by a few boys who were rescued, and they would always remember their friends on the street, and sometimes they would eat half of their share and say they would want to keep it for their friends on the streets. And we thought, what about feeding them once a week? And when COVID hit and all the hotels were closed, and there was no bins where they get to eat leftovers, then we did an awareness campaign, and we got some support to start feeding them each day, and it has not stopped today. We feed about 100 children a meal a day, while they eat lunch. Between morning and lunch time, we engage them in productive activities like games. Occasionally they'll get some basic literacy courses where they'll get to write. They will play some sports. They will do some environmental cleanups. And as we went on, we discovered that other than just food, they also need the basic human needs. So we started with offering weekly showers once a week, but over time we have been gracious enough that now they have an opportunity to shower every day and wash their clothes. Some will not come to the base camp just for the food or for the showers. Some just want a place where they can come and have the peace because they know that nobody will disturb them when they are there, and they'll just come either and sleep over all through up and until time to break the day happens.
So where do they go at the end of the day?
They retreat back to their bases. In the street language, they say bases. Yeah, that's there's a lot of partnership for strength or unity for strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing?
Yeah.
Is beyond marvelous. The looking at the vulnerable in your community and stepping in to actually offer assistance. When you look at these numbers of young children who end up in the streets or children who are molested, do you see the figures going up? Do you see the numbers increasing, or do you see them decreasing?
They are increasing. They're actually rising. But the problem now we are having is there's a trend of day scholars. Children who they have a home.
So they have a home, but they leave home in the morning.
Yeah, they leave home in the morning. They come to beg in the streets, hang around in the streets, go back. However, the end result is that all of them will eventually come to the streets. So what we try in our program is aimed at rescuing them before they adapt to life on the streets.
Before they become hardcore.
Yeah, because the minute the street life enters into their system, it's one of the hardest things that we have found to turn them home. Some will take them home, the next day they are back. And in the streets they exist with a different name. So if possibly it's Eric in the street, he'll have maybe the name Tony. So,
but
we are hosting Nicholus Njogu. He is the country director at an organization called Rafiki Mwema Therapeutic Center. They deal with rescue of children who've been sexually abused, and also they support children who are finding themselves on the streets. Based in Nakuru, in our Justice Thursday conversation, we are talking about that, the rights of these children who end up being sexually abused and they don't get support, or the children who end up on the streets or in the streets because of one reason or the other, broken family, because they then end up being vulnerable and the street just sucks them in and they get into that life. What is their future?
When you look at these numbers and the increase in these numbers, do you go so far as to actually find out, the day scholars as you call them, what it is that makes them leave home or to come ostensibly to go to school and yet end up in the streets?
Yeah, we have a team that's always with them every other day. We find there are categories of children. There are those who have left their homes because of poverty. And, there was nothing to eat. Others, it's because of either violence, the parents are either fighting amongst themselves or they are so harsh on them and things of the sort. And we have others who are just out of, is it rebellion? I think we should call it rebellion. Truant, yeah. They just want to go to the streets. But unfortunately, when they come to the streets, there are a lot of vices of drugs and substance abuse. The first thing, I think it's an identity in the streets of Nakuru for the name they call themselves is Django, is the glue. So the minute they are indoctrinated into the glue, now that becomes a different person. And I think it's one of the most addictive substances that we have, because it really takes toll on them. Even once we have rescued those we are able to rescue to our center, it's one of the things that can easily swing them back to the streets. A boy might by chance get a 10 shillings coin at school, and that will be enough to torment his mind to look for glue. But it takes time. It's not a short-term program to rehabilitate a street child, but we do the best we can, and the few we get and are able to successfully rehabilitate, the better.
What's your success rate in rehabilitation?
For boys, we are about 17%.
17% success.
Yeah, but it's occasioned by different factors. Initially, our strategy was not well laid out, basically because of lack of enough knowledge about the little ecosystem of the street children. We had a focus on slightly bigger boys who have already stayed in the streets, and it was really difficult. So with the feeding program, with the Rafiki Mtaani program, we now focused on rescuing them at least before they settle so much on the streets. And we have a good crop of boys who we have right now who we believe are making it. We have about 2 in college, 3 in high school, and quite a number, about 14 in primary, and it's now the junior secondary school. Yeah. All of them are undergoing the process. Other than that, our main aim right now, we are also working on another front to successfully take them back home. Those who we bring at our center are those who possibly their home is not livable for them, and yet they have made a decision that they would want to move from the streets.
Okay.
However, most of them...
So where do you accommodate them? At your center?
Yeah, we have a boys' house at our center where they also get the same love and support and care to help them, recover back their lives and rebuild their livelihoods.
When you take them back to school, do you pay their fees? Do you cater for their needs?
Yeah, actually, our biggest expenditure is part of it is school fees, because with all the children that we have, it costs almost $500,000 every other term to put the children to school. We try so much as possible not to break their educational cycles, because then it will resort to lost milestones in their lives and things of the sort. However, external school is just for those who from our assessment, they are not under any risk. Those who are under so much risk, or those who cannot face the outside school, or the newly comes, we have a school, more of a basic elementary homeschool at the center. We call it Jasili Rafiki School, where they are taken care of by teachers who are also part of our staff, to just keep their minds in school so that they don't lose up on their education journey.
How many members of staff do you have?
We have a local member of staff. We have 35 staff. It seems a lot, but you can imagine at any day there need to be staff during the day, during the night. We have security staff, we have the outreach staff who go to do family tracing. Some of the children are rescued and their parents also go underground. So again, it's a big problem.
What do you mean?
Yeah, some parents, and it's unfortunate, they think that it's an advantage to have their children in a CCI, so they'll bring the child, go quiet.
So this burden is basically...
Now that burden is given to us.
I see.
So after 6 months or a year, they'll pick up a call, mnaendelea aje, kila kitu iko sawa.
So they'll call the center?
Yeah, they'll call the center, and occasionally, although the center may call them to find out, they'll pick and they'll organize possibly the child can go for a home visit. But immediately they hear the child is okay, again they go underground.
But that speaks very much of just the sort of poverty levels we have in the country. By the time a parent is willing to let a child be looked after for them, it tells you that they have recognized that they are not able to help their own child.
Yes, some of them is poverty, some of them I think it's just, I don't know, I think it's mental poverty, not actually the material poverty.
In fact, talk of mental poverty, the studies that have been shown and have been written regarding child abuse, one of the things that is always pointed out is that many people who in their adulthood abuse children, if you look at their history, they themselves were either molested or abused when they were children.
Yeah, it's there are statistics to show that, and also some of them do it to piece off,
to get back at their partners.
Yeah, their partners. So we have, and that's unfortunate situation where we have had for a number of those children who have been defiled by their biological fathers. It's either he was piecing the mother or things of the sort.
Oh, and I mean that realm now is the realm of mental health.
Yeah.
Because this is also their child.
Yeah.
So by the time somebody gets to a point where that is how they're thinking, it's most definitely something wrong with the way they think.
Yeah, mental health in the community. I think it's one of the subjects that really needs to be in priority for the government.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Would you say that if you look at the traditional family setup,
Yeah.
and if you looked at the breakup of what we knew as a traditional family setup, would you say it has contributed significantly to some of these problems that we are seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. There are some elements that you would see if it were in a traditional family setup, the African cultural setup where, the family unit was really put up on the high note, and there are a lot of ethics and morality to the society then. And you look at the current situation where a girl gives birth at, those teenage mothers, they will be expected to either go back to school. If they cannot go back to school, now they have to leave their children with their grandparents, go to town, go to look for money, and they leave their child. They possibly have nothing. The grandparents is possibly another old lady who is also not able to take care of the child. Then, and pedophiles are just lacking around in the community. So that child will be wooed by mandazis, or is it KDF? Yeah, KDF. Kangumu. Yeah, and sweeties, and over the time then they are defiled. But we hope, it calls for a lot of awareness creation in the communities that, speak up, don't stay silent, report. Let the children enjoy a safe and dignified childhood.
Do you know of any other institutions within, say, the county of Nakuru that do what you're doing?
We have others. I know we have quite others like Beehive, who mostly focus on teenage mothers. But for these small ones, I don't have an idea of any other that's focusing on the line that we are focusing on.
Now, I'm going to ask you a political question.
Yeah.
The government has issued strong indications that they want to shut down children's homes. I think you know where I'm going with this one. Yeah. Now, children's homes played a very, very key role, despite the many problems that we have heard and we know emanate from them. But the positive role they played was significant. Now, if these homes actually get shut down, as we have heard, there's a plan to do so, will it then not create an even bigger gap than the one we currently have?
It's in the policy. I think it's a 10-year policy. Is it by 2028 or 2030 when they say that they plan to have closed all the children's home? However, I think over time they'll undertake their medium-term assessment and their long-term assessment. But there's really a huge gap. And with the economic situation in the country, we anticipate some of these, issues will not get, go low unless there is a deliberate effort from the government and funding to support causes that take care of, children and GBV matters and also neglect of children. So not unless the government comes up with enough children's rescue centers that are government funded, that are owned by the government, I still think the problem will not be solved. But I am not competent enough to advise the government. I can just...
Actually,
No, you are.
You must.
You've got skin in the game.
Yes.
Yeah,
You see, Nicholas, those who advocate and are championing for the closure of these children facilities look at it from various angles. There are those who say, so we have these children centers where children are brought, they stay in this center, they stay in for long. There's no clear route of adoption or rehabilitation or, being taken in to live with foster families and such. And so if you keep these children there, you're basically just creating another ecosystem that has no end in sight. There are others who say that these facilities are also being used to take advantage and exploit children. So you have a center, you are marketing yourself very well and saying that you're a rescue center for children, or you're keeping children who have been picked up from the streets or who were abandoned at birth and this and the other. And so you raise money, but then it's not supporting the children. All right. So it ends up being an abuse vehicle. Others say that these facilities could also be used for child trafficking. So you come in here and then you say, okay, so we are linking up with the foster family, this and the other. Although there is a Children's Act, which is very clear on how adoption and foster family and all those things take place. But there are those who argue that this has enabled all these vices against children, where they're supposed to be supporting children, they actually end up perpetuating abuse against children. And then there are those who say, actually, every child deserves a family. So even if you come into a rescue center for a short time, you want to be in a situation and a setup that has a family setup. You've got siblings, you've got adults who are minding you, you've got uncles and aunties who are visiting and you're visiting them. You are in that family setup. That many children who go through this system end up being in this children's center. They do not have that family setup. They haven't grown up with it. So they will not even be able to manage their own families because they have no clue how family setups look like. So what would you say to all those?
Yeah, and it's true. Unfortunately, we have had incidences where, the children, charitable children institutions have been used or taken to the long aspect of it, like, some being assumed to be centers of money laundering, others are trafficking and all those negative vices. However, I also advocate for the CCIs not to be long-term hostage for children, but there are situations where it will be inevitable, and I think it's challenging. For example, a child who is a victim of abandonment possibly was dumped somewhere in the streets or left out in a gate or somewhere. Then that's a child who has no any family affiliation, no belonging. So that child belongs to the government, and unless the government has sufficient, capacity to handle such children, again, you see the need is still there. Again, we also have, for example, and this is a situation where we have faced from our center, where, a child was rescued, being from a defilement case, and the family thinks this child is a bad omen. And they put their hands off the child. We have had cases where some of my team members have gone to try and do family tracing and talk to the family so that they can start preparing for their child to go home. And they even decline to show them their home. You meet at the corridors of shopping centers because they don't want anything to do with the child. So those and some other factors. We also have some children who are defiled and their mothers went, and their parents and families went underground. The known families went underground. We have had one who had stayed for 9 years before we were able to get get hold of their relatives. So
really,
yeah. And when the mother was found,
did you try to use the government structures?
Yeah, it's
police chief.
Yeah, it's
still unable to actually trace the family.
Yeah, it's such difficult. Some others will actually keep going away.
You discover them, they move.
Yeah,
they
discover. Yeah, because our plan is usually a child should not be disconnected from their family, because the best place actually for a child is in their home. That's where they will have their cultures, their beliefs, and their things. But again, sometimes the home is not safe. So, and that's where charitable institutions come in, and that's where the rescue centers come in, so that to ensure that safety of the child. But as soon as home or their relatives or somewhere it's safe for them to go, then the ideal thing would be they go. However, sometimes it's easier said than done.
You know what happens in such situations? Consider the stigma that will be attached to such a thing, because that family lives within a community.
Yep.
Their first instinct, as you correctly put it, will be to move away. So the child represents the horror and the stigma that they will now face from their neighbors and from whoever. And it is even worse when it is clear that that child has been molested by a relative or by a parent.
And even worse of it, when because most of these development cases end up with lengthy prison times, if not life in prison. So
there's that little detail, yes.
Yeah.
So when there's a court case and a public court case, then it also adds now to that issue of how does the rest of the family interact with the community.
Yes.
If the father is the one who's been imprisoned and going away for long, the mother who's left and the siblings and the others, how do they interact?
It becomes very, very difficult to cope.
Yeah, it's difficult.
It's very, very difficult.
Such difficult, and that's why you'll find most of these cases before they are reported. At times there will be tendency of trying to do the local solution, the kangaroo codes to try and cocoon it there. But we thank people who always volunteer the information, because it's the children who end up living with the wounds that they cannot heal. Because remember, this is the person who the child thought is the safest person for their lives.
So for many of these children, if let's say a child was defiled by an older relative, let's say a father, an uncle, a visiting cousin, and a big brother, sibling, and they end up in the center and the case goes to court, what do the other family members think? Has anybody actually ever interacted with the other so let's say it's the visiting uncle who came and defiled this child. Okay. What do the other family members think?
We have.
How do they react?
We find quite a lot of mixed reactions. You know, there are some who, for example, the relatives to the uncle who will in initial instances feel like their brother or their sister their brother was fixed into that, and some will retreat back. It's the issue of the land. You know, they are fixing him so that they can get the land, and
so
blah, 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 blah.
Get him to prison so they can take the land.
In others will be saying, wow, it's good, at least he has been taken inside, because the next time he would defile my child or his child. So it's different, but you know, when justice takes its course, we let justice take its course, and we are so grateful also to the children magistrate, because most of them prioritize cases on children so that they don't end up hanging for long.
And in the cases where, let's say, it's a father, and then the father has actually been committed to jail, and the mother is left, and the other relatives, how does the mother and the other relatives, how do they behave? How do they interact with the child, the victim?
I think the numbers that I know, most of it, we have had situation where you hear that the mother left the family, because she couldn't stand again the family of the defiler. And you know, it's as City was saying, there's a lot of stigma, you know, in this whole debacle of child abuse, because you know, these are emotional. There are people who are not just physically connected, but they are emotionally, they are blood relatives and things of the sort. And it's not the best kind of a situation. And that's why I always say it's better if abuse can be prevented than when we are having to deal with post-abuse.
Nicholus, do you think there is a need to start looking at then also counseling and supporting the other family members of an abused child? Because once it's identified that it's a mother, it's an uncle, it's a father who abused this child, and the others were not involved in it, then this whole stigma community comes in. The child still does not have a safe place to go to because of one reason or the other. Should effort be made to deal with the other family members?
Yeah, absolutely. And even in I also have that such sentiments for even neighbors in urban areas, for example. If it's in a plot and a child was abused from there, I think the neighbors should also be informed. However, the limitation to this is to call for a lot of manpower to do it, to call for a lot of specialists to do it. And in most cases, resources are always more limited than the problems at hand. So at times, you work with what is mandatory and very priority as you cascade down to what you can afford to do and what you're able to do.
Okay. Nicholus, thank you very much for this very good talking about our Justice Thursday conversation today being the plight of abused children, sexually abused primarily, but also other forms of abuses where children end up even on the streets and they're then rescued by institutions such as this one, the Rafiki Mwema Therapeutic Center in Nakuru. Nicholus Njogu is the country director. He's been our guest this morning. Keep it more here for more conversations. How can people get in touch with you if they'd like to?
Yeah, we are reachable on email, rmtc@rafikimwema.com. Visit our website, www.rafikimwema.com. Our phone number, 0723 094 679.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's rmtc@rafikimwema.com. That's the email.
Yeah.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.